We now must turn our attention quickly to responsible gaming. What is this? In a broad sense, this could have different meanings depending on the context in which it is used. But most definitions of responsible gaming refer to the minimization of harm arising from gambling activities. Leading this discussion today is moderator Dr. Faye Williams, lecturer at the Northern Caribbean University, Jamaica. She's a trained teacher, a certified mediator, and a drug prevention and treatment specialist. She's a social scientist whose interests include research and addressing social issues such as drug abuse, teenage pregnancy, gambling addiction, and factors contributing to crime and violence. She has special interest in responsible gambling and developing intervention to address problem gambling, and has worked extensively with Rise Life Management Services in that regard. Dr. Williams developed the terms of reference for the gambling study with youth in 2007 and is a frequent presenter at international conferences on education, public health, criminal justice, and youth issues. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Faye Williams and her panel to the podium. Dr. Williams.
Thanks very much for that welcome. I am really happy to be here, and I am hoping that we will have a very interesting and engaging session as we seek to discuss responsible gaming. All protocols observed. Let me first introduce the panel to you. We have our principal presenter, Mr. Richard Henry, who is Program Manager, Addiction Counseling, Rise Life Management Services. He has been working in the field of addiction for the past 21 years. He is presently the Program Manager for Addiction Counseling and Support Services at Rise Life Management, and it's an NGO that's located in Kingston. He served as Clinical Director of Richmond Fellowship Jamaica and Patricia House, an adult residential substance abuse treatment facility, as well as worked at the Caribbean Haven, an addiction treatment facility in the Cayman Islands. Richard has also specialized in gambling disorders, prevention and treatment, as well as responsible gaming. He is integrally involved in providing training and workshops in the field of addiction and has been working with the gaming lounge employees in Jamaica for the past 7 years, increasing awareness and understanding of gambling-related issues, as well as responsible gaming techniques and principles. On the panel also, we have Mark Nicholson, who is the Marketing Manager, Yaman Belgium Technology Limited. Mark is the Marketing Manager at Yaman Belgium Technology Limited, which operates treasure hunt gaming lounges in Kingston and St. Anne, and also in Montego Bay. He has amassed a wealth of knowledge about the gaming industry and has worked his way up to the ranks from gaming lounge floor attendant, then floor manager, before assuming the current position as head of marketing. He currently resides in Montego Bay with his wife as a proud father of one child, Jordan. On the panel also we have Sonia Davidson, who's the Vice President, Group Corporate Communications for Supreme Ventures Limited. She's responsible for public relations and customer service portfolio of this highly successful group. She also directs the company's voluntary donations to charitable organizations and community projects to position the company in its role as a good corporate citizen. This involves partnership with organizations such as Rise Life Management Services, where Supreme Ventures has been a consistent sponsor for their programs, including the annual poster competition for schools and funding the training for Rise Life team members through seminars and attendance at overseas gaming conferences. She has over 24 years experience in the field of marketing, communication, and uses her knowledge of the Jamaican market coupled with market research to develop innovative and exciting public relations and promotional programs to reinforce and build the company's image. These are often aligned to major corporate sponsors in order to showcase Supreme Ventures products and services. She holds a Master's of Arts degree in Communication Studies and a Bachelor's degree with honors from the University of the West Indies, as well as a diploma in marketing from Jamaica Institute of Management. So I have identified our principal presenter as well as our panelist. And we'll hear more about the other person who is on our platform shortly. I'll now hand over to Mr. Richard Henry, who will be our main presenter.
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols observed. I'm always excited to attend conferences like this, but especially since we travel to the National Center on Responsible Gaming annual conference. I've always been hopeful that there'd be some conference in Jamaica that we would get to also talk about responsible gaming. And responsible gaming certainly has grown since we started this program 10 years ago in Jamaica. And it has grown primarily because quite a few of the stakeholders, not everyone, have come on board and given us a platform to put out some of the programs and the ideas that we've learned from other more advanced jurisdictions. And we have seen the program just mushroom into something that we know, and you will see today, is very helpful to the Jamaican society, and especially the people that game. Today's presentation, you see there are practical ways to implement responsible gaming principles. And one of the things about the BJLC, they're always well prepared. I've never given a presentation in days before because I always come up with some new ideas and something to tweak. And so I laid in bed this morning wanting to tweak something and I couldn't. Because the truth is, this presentation is really about moving from theory to the practical, from theory to practice. And we certainly have done that, and we're going to demonstrate in the presentation just some practical ways for implementing responsible gaming principles. So very quickly, the idea of a gambling disorder was really concretized this year with the coming out of the new DSM-5. Everybody know what the DSM is? Okay then. It's the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. So it's the Bible of psychiatry and psychology. And so all the psychiatric conditions, mental disorders are listed. If it's not in that book, it does not exist. And so this year, we had the newest edition, and that's edition 5. What was exciting for us is that in edition 5, they have finally moved the idea of a gambling disorder from being an impulse control disorder to a category known as substance abuse and other addictions. You guys don't seem excited, but when we heard this at the conference, we were jumping. And that's because we work in the field, and we have always wanted to see the notion of a gambling disorder moved into its correct place with the right criteria and so forth. So science has been able to establish clearly for us that there are things that we can look for that establish a gambling disorder. Again, why we have responsible gaming program in Jamaica, we have seen the most rapid expansion of the gaming industry in the last 12 years. And so with that, you are naturally going to increase the numbers of persons who are going to discover that they have a gambling disorder. Let me just be very clear that the data tells us that the majority of people who game and gamble do not have a problem. They do so responsibly. Rates of gambling disorders worldwide hover somewhere between 1% and 4%, with 4% being on the really high side. So we know it's a minority, but the truth is, it's a minority that we have to take care of. Because for every one person in a family that has a gambling addiction, there are at least 10 to 12 family members who are affected, including children. Okay? So it's very far-reaching. We in the field, we like to say that addiction is a family disease, and that once someone in the family has an addiction, the rest of the family can't escape the consequences, the behaviors that come out of that addiction. Also, all gaming industry players and stakeholders have a responsibility to customers. We know that, yes, it is about profit making, but at the same time, we have to take care of the minority that we're talking about who will develop a gambling disorder. We always say, the responsible gambler is your perfect customer. The disordered gambler is not your good customer. Why is that so? Because the disordered gambler is going to either go to prison, he's going to go to treatment, or he's just going to fade out of the system. Who is your good customer? Your good customer is John, who likes to go to the gaming lounge, the casino, or the track once a week. He has $5,000 to spend. That does not affect him dealing with his everyday expenses, and he can do that weekly for the next 20 years. Those are your good customers. You agree? Your good customer is not the gentleman who is going to have to rob and steal and commit fraud to be able to deal with his gaming. Okay? So those people don't help the industry at all. We're going to end up losing the customer. That's what's going to happen. And like I said, incarceration, and ultimately, on the low side, however, there are people with gambling disorders who end up committing suicide as a result of the debt, the shame, the guilt, the depression, because there's a high correlation between people who have a gambling disorder and people who have a psychiatric condition. Okay? So, I know I was instructed to go very quickly. It is not my nature. Yes, Mr. Peart, and I shall do so because, yes, we're behind. I want to also show, so I'm going to show you the face of responsible gaming and what that looks like. So we created, along with the BGLC, the Code of Conduct for Responsible Gaming. And that is going to firmly come into place sometime this year. I have a date in my mind, but I will not say it, a date that we've been discussing. And so we've been having dialogue with gaming lounges about the Code of Conduct and how to implement, and the truth is why we should implement responsible gaming practices. I'm going to talk a little bit about the framework of the Code of Conduct and show you what it looks like. Just for practical experience, for you to see, and again, the gaming lounges that have been compliant with us so far, I'm going to use them as examples of what responsible gaming will look like in the gaming lounges. Okay, so the first thing is the staff, I'm sorry about that. Annual staff training. Staff members in a gaming lounge are seen as a high-risk group, and again, we could be talking about casinos, for developing a gambling-related disorder. It doesn't mean they are going to develop one, but it means that as a result of the environment, if you have that addictive personality, you are definitely in the environment where that addiction could grow and flourish. So it's important for the staff members to have an understanding of what responsible gaming is, what a gambling disorder looks like, have a greater understanding of why it is important to be able to identify within yourself if you're having any issues. And so we've done staff training with Treasure Hunt, and all their staff members are now compliant with the Code of Conduct. The training really is very basic. It covers responsible gaming principles, understanding gambling disorders, and the truth is, very importantly, how to get help and where to get help. Because sometimes that's all we're asking the gaming lounge staff to do. to direct the person where to get help. So there's a picture there of Treasure Hunt staff team after training in Montego Bay. Another area that individuals in the gaming lounges will have to meet is through signage, publicize the average percentage payout of the prescribed premises. And there's a sign that Treasure Hunt has put up about the average payout. Proper placement of 2 clocks, and we had a little resistance to this. Again, the placement of the clocks came from looking at several different codes, and the codes nowadays, and I know that in Tasmania and I think in some parts of Australia, clocks are mandated in those facilities. But here's a nice way to put up a clock. It's not a great picture, but that clock there is a roulette clock. Right. Well, I'm just telling you, it's a roulette clock. So it fits the premises, it speaks to what the business is about, and at the same time, people can get a sense of what time is it, am I in here too long, do I need to go? Information and material promoting responsible gaming should be on your checklist and the code of conduct available to all employees. And you can get that from RISE, maybe through the BGLC. We're going to create a national database because our gaming lounges will have to establish what is called a voluntary exclusion program, which allows the patrons, the customers, to voluntarily exclude themselves from the facility as an adjunct to treatment. It is not treatment, but it gives them time out, it gives them time to reflect, and how we have set it up is that they have to come for counseling before they are allowed to re-enter. There's quite a bit of documentation that they have to fill out and stuff like that. Again, there is a self-exclusion program, a flyer, and that self-exclusion program right now only exists in Treasure Hunt. Information providing responsible gaming available at various points in the facility. Again, you can get that material from RISE right now free of cost, and it's just information about where to get help, why you may need to get help, and that sort of thing. Clearly established staff gaming policy has been communicated to the staff team, and again, that's a policy. Policies like that really speak to, are staff members allowed to game? Are they allowed to game after work, before work? Do they have to go to another facility? That sort of thing. Establish an efficient and effective transparent mechanism through which customers may present complaints and have them addressed. Enforce your KYC, know your customer. Again, that's a card from Treasure Hunt. Dedicated sections on the prescribed premises website promoting responsible gaming. The prescribed premises has an established policy of responsible alcoholic beverage service, which is implemented by staff serving customers. And there's a sign again that says no alcohol, and that should be if you are intoxicated. The prescribed premises prevents minors from entering the prescribed premises and communicates the legal age to gamble through signage. And I'm reading specifically from the Code of Conduct. And again, there's a sign outside that says, no one under 18 permitted. Full participation in the annual Responsible Gaming Week activities as planned by stakeholders. And this week we are celebrating, if you see, I'm sure you've seen it in the book that was handed to you from Supreme Ventures. The week of the 14th to the 20th is Responsible Gaming Awareness Week. And we were lucky enough to have a nice article come out in the Observer about the week yesterday. And so the aim is to create a greater awareness among Jamaicans about responsible gaming and gambling disorders and where to get help. I'm at the end now. I wanted to put this up as well as an idea around the issue of responsible gaming. Oh, my fault. Sorry about that. I had 2 flyers that I wanted to show, again, to commend Supreme Ventures that has on their flyers, and I've heard it in their advertisements as well, promoting responsible gaming. The idea of responsible gaming ladies and gentlemen, is here to stay. In most jurisdictions worldwide, you can't get a casino license unless you are able to demonstrate what you're going to be doing as far as responsible gaming is concerned. This program has been able to help people who need treatment, people who run into problems with their gaming, and so I wanted to show you a face. And I'm going to ask that the cameraman I had spoken to you earlier, that at this point, we don't show any camera. I get emotional with my clients. I think that is the bravest client I've ever met. Not to say anything more, but to hand over to Dr. Williams. Responsible gaming works, and the program must stay in place.
Let us have another round of applause for that brave gentleman. And as workers in the industry, we all need to be vigilant. We need to be vigilant for what happens in our establishment, what happens to us as workers, because you're at risk, and what happens to your colleagues. So you need to be vigilant. All right, thank you very much, sir. And we give you all the support and encouragement as you go on. At this point, I'll ask the panel if we have a very limited time, so we cannot have much discussion. But if there are questions from the audience or there are specific things to be highlighted by the members of the panel, we will take about 5 minutes just to address that. Okay. Yes.
I'm Dr. Ford.
Yes. I'll just acknowledge him there, and I'm coming to you. Yes, sir.
I'm a medical practitioner and a trained psychologist. I'm always very weary when the fox watches the hen house, you know. So when I hear that Supreme Ventures are the people who sponsor rice for the most part, it is not surprising that when we come here, there's a certain almost hint of hypocrisy. Let me be very blunt. Gaming is a $95 billion industry. The minister said so. The tax intake from Supreme Venture is one of the major inputs in the budget. What this has meant is that we have facilitated a situation, as the Gleaner put it very bluntly 3 Sundays ago, where the lottery becomes a tax on the poor people. That is not responsible gambling. We know, and we're sure, that it is easy for people with slick marketing. Cigarette companies have done that for years. Remember? Cigarette, the cool person. Gamble, lotto, the answer to your dreams. They've been able to present situations in gaming that to the common people would tend to suggest to them that they do all right to gamble. If you repeat something often enough, the common man will begin to believe it. So we see circumstances, and the Betting Game and Lotteries Commission will have to address it, where people won't have money to send their children to school the next day, but they'll buy a lotto ticket. That is not responsible gaming. That is not responsible gambling. That is why I tell you I'm aware of this incestuous relationship that is described here today. In fact, I want to suggest to Minister Daly and to the Betting Games and Lotteries Commission that they speak about drop-on situation where we are expanding every day in terms of number of lotto outlets and lotto games and mismanagement sent to the poor. That part of the mission of the Betting Games and Lottery is to hold strain, to stop, to call a creed, to see if then by setting responsible gaming in place, to say to my minister, notwithstanding budgetary input, look at this tax on the poor and see then if betting games and lottery better fulfill the conditions that we expect from them. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Okay,
Morning, everyone. Thanks for that point that came up. I just want to say that from Supreme Ventures' point of view, we promote gaming and entertainment. For us, gaming is supposed to be entertainment. And our support for Rise Life is based on that perspective. We want people to play our games as entertainment, not gambling and to get addicted. We have a good relationship with Rise Life, and we work closely with Richard, not only with the gaming lounges, but with the major part of our business, which is lottery. We're talking about over 1,200 agents plus operators in this business, working in communities where people live. They're out there on their own. We work with Richard, we work with our team internally to educate from the underage gaming perspective, where that side of the business is concerned. We promote must be 18 and over to play. You need to be responsible. SVL encourages responsible gaming. Richard had put up 2 of our posters. All of our materials speak to this is for entertainment. You must be responsible. You must be 18 and over to play. And we work with Rise Life to deal with the underage gambling aspect of the business. Thank you.
Just to be very clear, all program sponsors are betting, gaming, and lottery solution, not Supreme Ventures. Supreme Ventures contributes to our youth gambling prevention post the competition, which is fractional to the budget that we get from the BGLC. Apart from that, just very quickly, it's not uncommon, especially from an international perspective. If you look at the American Gaming Association, who collects money, I assume, from the casinos, that money has to go back into providing training, treatment, and research. It is the industry, and it's very unique to this industry, that takes care of customers. Every day, there's someone who just started drinking alcohol that's going to become an alcoholic. My client did not know he would become addicted to gambling. But because of the flourishing of games and being involved, he discovered that. We have to have a safeguard and a catch net for that. But it is the BGLC who rightfully and from a proactive standpoint takes care of our program.
all right, there was one question here.
Some of it later on. I think we all know that the leisure industry is the fastest growing sector of economic activity. People have more time to go on holidays now, and of that leisure sector, gaming is the fastest growing sector in that activity. What I'd like to suggest is, especially to tertiary institutions, that you institute a program of risk management. Teach people how to gamble properly. I wish I had a course like that myself years ago. But it is not only in terms of the gaming aspect, but also there are people who play the stock exchange. If you could know how to gamble, how to trade properly, and do the proper risk analyses. A risk management course at NCU, for instance, would be nice to do. I know that the Seventh-day Adventists will start something like that. So go ahead and start it.
Question here.
Second question.
Yes.
Final question.
Yeah, I'd like to posit that people, and especially to the minister, are losing their shirts in Jamaica and they're not gambling, right? They're losing everything without one bit of gambling. That is saving your money in the bank when small amounts are being taken away from the poor people of Jamaica, right? So, let me tell you, right? I want somebody, we need to do a study, add up all of those small amounts that the banks who say we are going to care for the people, we are going to find a way, are taking away $100 each month from the people of Jamaica. I I want to posit also that it is the responsibility of a number of organizations who are taking these small amounts from people, churches. What is the social responsibility to their congregations in this suffering time? I therefore challenge, and I can tell you that I grew up in a Methodist church. I was never allowed to gamble. I have never gambled in my life in that way. First time as a child at 7 years old, I decided to do a raffle. And my mother said, no, I had to take back the money and give everybody. I went to Canada and my godmother would say, why don't you buy a ticket? I say, I can buy a bottle of milk. I would like to challenge the gaming industry to put in some kind of coupon system, which is linked to food, books, so that when school time comes, those people who have been doing regularly, because I see the people in the communities, I am quite aware of how people spending habits with gambling are, that you put in a proper system of social intervention with your health card, some kind of health card system that helps. We have other problems in Jamaica. We just have GSAT results, but the people, every parent is gorged for those GSAT results constantly over the years. You need to find teachers who are using the classrooms. They need to pay a percentage back to the government. It's a responsibility for a lot of us, and I'm just asking that this be done and it be addressed. Thank you.
Okay, Minister, we have to give you an opportunity.
Let me thank my dear sister for such a spirited presentation. And I would love to have lunch with you at lunchtime. Sit at my table.
Thank you, sir.
Because you seem to have some very, very good suggestions about how government can operate. If you notice that a couple of weeks ago in the Parliament, we had a standing Economic and Production Committee of the Parliament spend a lot of time in looking at the operations of the banks and bank charges. I don't know if you are familiar with the report. There was a very, very lively debate about the charges and the hidden charges and all those little $100 that you're talking about by the bank. I would encourage you, because the banks are regulated in so far as they are deposit-taking institutions, but their fees and their charges are not regulated. And we are not aware of anywhere in the world where there is any regulation that says to a financial institution like a bank, this is how much you can charge to operate an account of anyone. If there's anybody in this room that have that information where it happens in the world, you please bring it to our attention. So it's really a moral suasion and consumer agitation that we have to look at. That's one thing. Secondly, the gaming industry pays a lot of taxes, you know. They pay a lot of taxes. I went through in my presentation how much we have received in taxes from the industry. And a lot of money is given over to a place called Chase Fund, where we forego taking the money in the Ministry of Finance to help with the budget or with your expenditures, and those funds go to Chase that helps with health and education and culture and so on. And some years ago, there are some people in this room who helped with when we brought simulcast racing here. You didn't have it before. That the money you earn from it went to the Sports Development Foundation, the SDF, to help with sports development. And it's not that the gaming industry is not doing anything at all in terms of social responsibility. It's not true to say that. I'm not alluding to the fact, I'm not saying you said so, but they do contribute a lot to social intervention programs. On the other issues that you raise, let's talk about them at lunch.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Time is very fast, but there's just one other thing we need to do. As you heard, this is Responsible Gaming Week, and we'd just like to recognize 2 champions of responsible gaming, and they are, and I'll just read to say why they're being recognized. Treasure Hunt Gaming for their commitment to responsible gaming principles, commitment to observable, through not only support for rights management, but sponsorship of travel and attendance to the annual national conference for responsible gaming in Las Vegas in 2015, as well as sponsorship of the Youth Gambling Prevention All Island. Not Treasure Hunt?
Nope.
I wasn't reading it. This is what it says?
That's Supreme.
Okay. All right. Anyhow, we want to recognize Treasure Hunt for their contribution in a number of ways. So now we just have an award. And we are hoping that the other agencies, other places will also get on board. Remember, it's also an international requirement in many places that you comply with responsible gaming. Just one final thing. Responsible gaming is the safest bet that the industry can, within this industry. So we need to encourage responsible gaming and be vigilant for ourselves and for all the stakeholders. Have a good day and enjoy your lunch.